All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio, and today on the telephone we have Eric Anton from APW. Eric started in the business back in 1998 and was trained by Chris and Jeff Hamrick. Right now, currently a member of the tag team, the Brigade, over in APW, and if I'm understanding correctly, and we'll get into it a little bit later, is doing a portion of the booking over in APW. And I really want to talk to you about that, Eric, because as you know, over the last few weeks, I've been kind of taking the APW television product to task right here on this television program. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, welcome to the program, Eric Anton. Eric, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Rikki. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. And now, listen, I greatly appreciate you coming on. A lot of guys, especially with some of the things that I've been saying about the product, may not have accepted the offer. Or actually, I think you extended the offer to come on, and I appreciate you doing that. Eagle's a friend of mine, man, and I say it every week before I talk about the television program. I don't have a problem with Jay Eagle personally, but you and I, and in talking previously here, kind of understand his philosophy on the way he runs things over there. But we'll get into all that a little bit later. Right now, for the people who may not be as familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into the business and how you met the Hamricks.
Well, it was about 13, 14 years ago. Actually, I started very late. I started when I was 26. Didn't really know that there was any kind of what we call camp or training centers or anything like that around, and didn't realize that anything like that existed in my area anyway. So I just never thought that I'd ever have the opportunity to try to see what I could do with it. And I've been watching the sport since I was 8 years old with my grandmother, and we know how grandmothers can get into wrestling. Just in doing that, I passed by a training center in Chesney, which actually was Chiefs, stepped in and talked to them, eventually bumped into Jeff Hamrick shortly after that, and instead of going to Chiefs, I went to Jeff Hamrick. And Jeff's job kind of got into the mix of things where he wasn't as available, and Chris, as I was telling you earlier, was bouncing back and forth from Pittsburgh, Connecticut, back to here. So he took over his training for a while and more or less finished me out. I actually trained with my old tag team partner, Thugs. We actually started out doing the tag team gimmick, the BOD thing, and so it was kind of hard for Chris to kind of get us booked as a tag team, but he had a lot of single spot, and so I got to ride with Chris some. Chuck kind of dropped off and done his own thing, and I wanted to keep going forward with the every Friday and Saturday. I liked doing that. I just kept going full head of steam with the singles thing, and he just stuck around, and I think he done mainly SWA because it was in the hometown kind of thing.
So meeting up with Chris and Jeff there, Chris, of course, as everybody knows, is on ECW and lots of different organizations like that. What do you feel as far as the training that he gave you? What's your opinion, and how long were you in training with him?
Well, the training camp itself ran on every Tuesday night. Now, that was for anybody and everybody that was in the class, and that was once a week. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to progress faster. Like everybody does, of course, we wanted to progress faster. So we ended up befriending one of the guys that was higher up in his training center who actually helped him some, and he had a key. So we were training 3 days a week.
Yeah.
We was steadily in there 3 days a week. It was right at 10 months before we actually done our first show. I mean, he was really strict. You know, he would always say, fellas, you don't want to go run and jump out there as bad as you want to. You don't want to run out there and jump out there because if you don't look good, then that's going to be the first impression you put in everybody's mouth, and that's not the impression you want to give people. Not if you want to be booked somewhere else anyway. So I feel like our training was great. I know there's a lot of great trainers out there, but a lot of them don't take the time and let these guys progress to what they need to be before they get in the ring. You can use them for whatever you want to, but eventually they're going to feel like they're a worker. Everybody has their own opinions about that, but we were always told when you get in the ring, or go to a show, you'll be able to tell the difference between a Hamrick camp trainee and anybody else camp trainee. And I did. It was obvious, and I was really glad that I was trained that way, and I was pushed hard to excel. And that's what they did. They really made you want to be better in every aspect, not offensive or just defensive, everything. Psychology-wise, respect in the business. There was a lot of issues we covered that wasn't working, and I think that was a complete overall training, because if you don't train properly, which I got to say is proper training cures most BS, and it does.
Right.
I mean, if you're trained properly, then you don't have a lot of the BS that goes along with what we deal with guys who were trained for a few months.
And the thing you brought up, which is always very important to me, is the psychology training of it, and nobody is doing doing that anymore. The so-called trainers will bring people in, you know, put them in the ring, teach them how to take a bump and cut a couple of flips. The next thing you know, they call themselves a professional wrestler, which in my opinion has led to the decline of the art of what we're supposed to be out there doing. For somebody to have been out there teaching that, even, you know, back then, is very respectable. I just wish there was more of it going on today.
Well, I actually tried to get together once a month kind of thing. You know, Chief trains every week on Tuesdays, and I was thinking, well, once a month we could get the guys in there, even guys that don't come to training on a regular basis, and do a type of psychology kind of class, give them some scenarios and give them some ideas, and that way they can get that kind of training, not as much as they should, but it's better than what they're getting right now. I couldn't get a lot of the guys to be interested to want to come that feel like, well, I'm not training anymore. I'm wrestling in shows, so I don't have to be a trainer anymore.
Right. I don't need to learn anything else, which is an idiotic way of thinking, because I don't know if you know or not, but I've been in some way connected with this business since 88 now. And every time I get into the ring, you know, even to this day, you know, I'm learning something, because it's a learning process. And if any artist will tell you, if you're not learning, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're stuck, you know, that really just hurts the business, you know, I think also.
It really does.
We're coming up on a break here. But before we get to that break, you mentioned when we were talking before the interview here that you actually worked some for UCW and Ronnie Gossett, and I had Gossett on here a few weeks ago, and you were making some points about his style there and his promotion. Tell us a little bit about that before we go to break.
Oh, well, Ronnie had a good promotion. Nothing about him personally. I feel like I think he's a good guy. I just think that he had a good promotion. He had a lot of good ideas. He had a lot of good intentions, and in the wrestling business, everything don't always pan out like you want it to. And he had quite a few occasions where that happened. I mean, I know you got to pay the guys that are the stars that you're promoting on the show, but you got to end up taking care of everybody sometime. Try not to step on any toes here, because I like the guy.
Right.
And, you know, overall he had a great thing going. Whatever the situations were that caused him to have the issues he did, I'm not sure, but I think if he had the right things in the right places at the right times, he could still have a good product. It was almost like it was more of a hype than it really was, because, you know, you heard a lot of things about it, and then, oh, you're wanting to work for this guy, and then when you get there, it looks just like you heard, then the little drama issues start trickling out. But that's in wrestling business anyway also, so
sure,
it ain't got nothing to do directly with Ronnie Gossett.
Yeah,
Ronnie's a good guy. I'd still work for him today.
You know, Ronnie and I have talked out some of our issues that we've had over the years, and I kind of understand him a little bit more than I did previously with some of the personal problems that he's had. Man, I'm gonna tell you, that guy could lock down a sponsor in a heartbeat. It's that gift of gab, you know, just go in and sell yourself, and he could sell himself like nobody's business, and could always lock down. I'm talking big time sponsors like Budweiser and Coca-Cola, and
I mean, he always had good, solid sponsors, and you never had to worry about that sponsor coming through with their part of the deal.
Yeah, exactly. So I wish he could get completely focused on that, and I think there's still the potential to this day that he could. You know, he could do something positive in this business, and of course, you know, that's what we need is more positive stuff. All right, Eric, we're up on a break here. We're gonna jump out real quick. When we come back after the jump, I want to talk to you about the APW television product and what's going on over there in Spartanburg, and we'll do that when we get back right here on Inside Wrestling Radio with Eric Anton. All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio, and today on the telephone we have Eric Anton, who's currently working for APW. And let me be clear here: you are not doing all of the booking over there, am I right? You're doing some of the writing. Is that what you told me?
Well, what Chief does is he has the open door policy,
right?
And he has a lot of guys walk in and out of that door, so obviously he needs some help. He'll find someone he can trust to do that, and right now I'm that guy. I do some of the booking. He tells me you can have the pencil, whatever you say. You know, if you send them down here, I understand, I trust you. So I do some of the booking, do some of the writing. We write our own stuff, of course, and he don't usually have any gripes about it, especially since we work him most of the time. But it all still goes through Chief. Still has that final line right there. So no matter what you do, it still falls with Chief. You
mentioned something there that he has the open door policy, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But I went over to APW a couple of times and just to observe how that thing ran over there, because you hear all these rumors, and unless you see it for yourself, you don't really know what's going on. So I went over a couple of times a few years back and just watched. And you're right, man. Guys would just walk in with a bag and, hey, I'm a worker, put me to work, and he would. You're not even ask them who they trained by or how many years you got. Nothing. And that kind of scared me. I'm like, well, what's your criteria for putting people to work? And apparently there is none. Is that still the case over there?
Yeah, just just to reiterate something, when I was in training, I thought, well, who certifies me? Who gives me my certificate? Now, of course, you got to understand that I didn't know anything about the business at the time. Who's the guy that says I'm actually qualified to be a wrestler? Who sends me my certificate? And then you find out that, hey, it's a word of mouth kind of thing. And then you got to show videotapes and DVDs and so on. But these guys come in, and you can tell they're not workers. And then you got some guys that want to come in that want to say they were trained by certain people, and they don't know nothing about the business to know that it's possible that you know that person, and then they're going to disqualify anything you say about them training you. Then the guy gets out there, of course, there's guys that get out there, and their work just speaks volumes in itself of whether or not they can work. So without putting this in a bad sense for the APW name, you got to have somebody there that's going to put the guys over. And back in the day, and they still call them that, but you don't see a whole lot of it, jobbers. You got to have the guys that you go out there and go strong over on. Nowadays, though, you're not going to find many workers that are willing to get in the ring and not do something. They don't understand it, so they don't realize my job is to make him look as best as possible. And that's my job right now. I'll pay my dues, and maybe one day I'll be that guy. We'll reverse the role. They want to get in, and they want to do their spots. They want to get their stuff in. So you don't really have so-called jobbers at APW that much. That's what tries to give these guys they think they can get out there and they can work, when really they're not fully trained. They don't understand the business, and they don't understand when you tell them, look, when I go out, you're not going to get to do anything. You have to be that literal with some of the guys. You're not going to do anything, and I'll explain to you why. It's almost like babysitting. I mean, it really is. I feel like I'm babysitting a lot of times, because not only are you having to explain to them, especially on TV night, the production of it, because most of them haven't done any television, you have to explain the psychology of, hey, why is this happening? Because you have egos. You have people who think, oh, I want to win, or I don't want to look bad.
That also goes to the training, because, if you're not telling these guys, look, you got to go pay some dues, brother. You're not going to walk out of the school and go to some organization to be their heavyweight champion on the first day. It goes back to what I said in the first section. Once some of these people go out and learn how to take a quote-unquote bump and cut a couple of flips, that's all they train. So then they want to go in and be Jeff and Matt Hardy, and that's how people end up getting their feelings hurt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I'm dealing with that right now with somebody at APW, and it's not pretty.
It never is. All right, let's get into this television thing now. I've had a lot to say about it over the last few weeks, and no reflection on you, but over the last 3 weeks now, I've not been able to watch the show for one reason or another, so I can't comment on anything from the past 3 weeks. But the 3 shows I did catch, one of the best things on the program, and I give goods and bads, the best thing on the program was Dirty and Nick Fury, and against you guys, the Brigade. And I said that when I did my initial review. You guys did some good old school heel work, and Dirty, to me, you just seemed head and shoulders above anybody else over there in the ring. And I know that's partially due to you guys, working with him. As far as some of this other stuff, though, and my prime example is that Big Tiff and Carolina Girl against Scar Stevens and Michael Caine there. What was the idea behind putting those females over 2 male workers?
Okay, here's what happened. They had a little thing going on house shows. And it was great, because you understand when you come in that building, you look at the intelligence of the majority of that crowd. Most anything in that building can get over. What was going on was, it was house shows mainly at the time. You've actually seen the blow-off on the television program, but it ran for a couple months. It was done properly up to a certain point, and the whole gimmick was to get the guys in the dresses. That was the whole thing, so they would go under, they would have to wear the dresses. And the crowd loved it. It was really over the way it was being done. And then when they got to the point of where it was more of a hands-on kind of thing, that's where Michael Caine and Stevens kind of gave them, I would say, a lot more than they should have gave them.
They gave them entirely too much, to the point where it made Scar and Michael look bad. I mean, because because you can't take clotheslines from girls and pump for them, man. You can't. I don't care how big you are. You can't.
That's right.
You can't do it, brother.
Nope.
And not just from a worker aspect, from just a casual fan. It's not believable. And if you lose that sense of believability, you lose part of your audience, because nobody's going to believe that could actually happen in any world. So that was my main problem with that particular angle. And I understand it, working over a few weeks and stuff like that. But, brother, I just could not make that right in my head by any stretch.
Well, they could have done that a whole lot better. It could have been done, and it could have had the same outcome. And there never had to be any bumps at all from those guys. But it's like I tell the guys I trained, if you're going to do a spot, and you have to do something that looks stupid or don't make sense to get to do what you want to do, then don't do any of it.
Right.
You know, work it out to where it makes sense. It all has to make sense, and they could have done just as fine.
That's my thing, Eric. I've always been a big psychology guy, man. I mean, if it does not make sense, if it's not believable, you cannot do it, man. And that, I think that's what really turned me on that particular program, was that, because I just, you know, it just killed all credibility for Scar and for Michael. And then the next week to bring him in and put him in against Dirty and Nick Fury even made to me less sense, because why? Why would Nick Fury and Dirty even care to work these guys who couldn't beat a couple of girls the week before? You know?
And why did it take so long to beat them?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Now, we know why that is. We know it's because Nick and Dirty want to do their spots.
Yeah.
But logically, they should have squashed them.
Absolutely. In 30 seconds, brother, it should have been an out-and-out kill job, and you know.
Exactly.
But I think you guys have moved on from that and are into other things. And really quickly here, tell me about this post-production stuff that was going on over there, where the production team was kind of going into business for themselves.
We had a couple experiences. We had to fill out the process of finding someone who we like to do the product for us. And the first guy, I don't know if you caught the first shows or not, but the first 2, maybe 3 programs that aired were really shoddy. They were really bad. The voiceover was terrible. Nothing lined up together. It just, nothing was good about it. And then we found the new guy that we're presently using, and he done very excellent work. That doesn't mean he does very good, excellent wrestling television work. He does, because we had to tutor him a little bit on what he needed to do, what he needed to find. But when it come to the little segments at the end of those 2 hours, what had happened was he had a couple minutes to play with, and thought he was doing a good thing, and didn't realize that he was actually hurting. He was actually hurting Chief for one.
Oh yeah, buried the guy.
We're the heels. Yeah, you can take your shots at us, but you're just killing what we just did.
Right.
You know, the whole point is it's on tape. We know that, but it can't be reversed, and we don't need to be spotlighting what we did so that we can get that attention back on us. He understands now, and we've also said, and in the future, you know, any kind of time you need to fill, let you know what to fill that with. We might be able to sell a commercial.
Right, sure.
Or even make one.
Yeah, exactly.
For PW.
All right. Eric, listen, brother, we are all the way out of time, man, and I mean we are out of time. So, and I greatly appreciate you coming on, man. I really do.
Sir.
You kind of walked into the Dragon's Den here, and I appreciate you doing that, and you cleared up a lot of stuff for me at least. And I do want to point people to that APW television program. Tell us when it airs. Tell us the website information. Tell us your content information. Anything you want to plug, man, go ahead and do that now.
Well, of course, you got APW Spartanburg Facebook page. It's pretty much kept up to date. We have training every Tuesday from 7 to 9. Getting ready to be some changes with the training set up here shortly. And Charter Cable, Channel 10, every Saturday at noon. At the present time, we are in the process of taping more. So you're probably going to see either a rerun or a classic show. We'll try to refrain from putting those 3 programs on that you've seen last, Rikki.
Yeah.
So we're going to get some more taped up and get them to Charter. Like I said, it's every Saturday at noon on Charter Channel 10.
And APW runs every Saturday night, is that right?
Runs every Saturday night. Right there across from the KFC below the hospital, Spartanburg Regional, and doors open at 7, and bell time is 8 p.m.
And the APW television tapings will be posted on their Facebook page, is that right?
They'll be posted on the Facebook page, and also they are posted outside on the reader boards on the building.
Fantastic. Eric Anton, man, thanks so much for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I greatly appreciate you coming on here and clearing up the air for us a little bit about the product and what's going on over there. And continued success to you guys, man. You know, I do hope you guys make it, and I hope the thing really takes off for you, because that's what this program is about, is to get indie stuff over. So congratulations to you guys for jumping out there and doing it. All right, that's going to do it for the interview portion of the program. We'll be right back here to close out the show, coming up next on Inside Wrestling Radio.